Have you seen the viral video of Noida where a woman was thrashing another woman because they shared the relationship of employee and domestic worker? And that viral video shook the whole entire nation. And what we have seen that the domestic worker has been abused by its employer. And what that video suggests? The video suggests that domestic workers in India are not safe. There is no social security for them. There is no economic security for them. Hello everyone, welcome to the Economy Primer series of Drishti IAS. I am Ritu and today we are going to discuss the lives and condition of domestic workers in India, and we'll also focus the economic aspect of domestic work in India. So moving to the points of discussion part. First of all, we are going to discuss that why this topic is into the discussion, and then we are going to discuss that who are the domestic workers, categorization of the domestic workers, placement agency and gig economy, and then condition of domestic workers in India. Then we'll have a conclusion about this whole topic, practice question for prelims and mains. So moving to the discussion part, that why this topic is into discussion. So it is not being discussed because of the viral video, it is being discussed because it addresses various concerns related to the domestic work in India, and they play very important role in our economy, but their role is not recognized. That's why they are facing such kind of brutality and abuse by their employers. So here we have taken few cutouts from the newspaper which says that this topic is very relevant, and this topic is not just relevant for the economy, it's also relevant for the social justice, and you can link here with the politics, social issues and the economic issues. So the first cutout says that women domestic workers of Bengaluru demand fair wages and social security. So recently we have seen that there were so many domestic workers in Bengaluru, they protested against the current regime, and then false hierarchy of gender caste practices has devalued domestic work. Pandemic has sharpened this inequality. So why they are so much vulnerable? Because there are significant causes behind them. The first is that patriarchy, caste, class issues, and all these factors cumulatively made them very vulnerable. And then are domestic workers legally protected in India? And domestic workers need to work in 6 households to make minimum wage. So this is a study. So moving to the next slide, which is who are the domestic workers? So here we are quoting a definition by International Labour Organization, and when there will be the question related to the domestic workers, you can quote that in the words of International Labour Organization. Domestic works refers to any work such as sweeping, cleaning utensils, cleaning household, rearing children, taking care of the elderly population, and in response and in return they receive particular kind of remuneration. So this is called as domestic work, and it plays a very crucial role in the economy because so many, if you will account the economic work and economic value of the domestic work, which is not valued in this country but it is being valued in other countries, it amounts on an average, suppose that if you are taking a middle household, on an average it amounts 30 to 35,000 per month. So this is a calculation of middle income groups, but if it will be calculated to the lower income group and the higher income group, the calculation may vary. Here we are telling you a vague idea about their value and about their worth, that how much they are contributing to the economy. But unfortunately their contribution are not directly included in our GDP sector, and that's why their contribution is negligible in the calculation of the GDP. And they face number of challenges such as the problem with the wage standards, pay for overtime work, retirement and healthcare benefits. And they do various kind of jobs just like rearing children, taking care of elderly population, but these things are not valued in this country. Suppose that if you are going to the Western countries and UK, so their per hour wages is fixed. No matter what amount of work they are doing in that hour, but per hour wages are fixed, and it will differ from one work to another work. So their time is valued and their work is valued, their skills are valued. But here we don't have such kind of remuneration and recognition for the domestic work. So moving to that categorization of the domestic work. So according to the ILO, we have a 3 kind of categorization, and in India all these 3 kind of categorization works. So the first thing is that part-time worker. So what happened that if a woman is working in one household for 2 hours, suppose that she is cleaning utensils for one household, so she cleans utensils for 7 or 8 households. So this is called as part-time worker because they switch home to home and they earn money accordingly, and after sometimes they go to their own home. Then coming to the full-time workers. So suppose that one worker is working to your home and in whole full day she is doing different kind of work, just like washing utensils, sweeping, washing your clothes, rearing children. So that is called as full-time work, and that comes around 9 to 10 hours of the work, and after the whole day of work they return to their home. So this is called as full-time worker. And then live-in workers. So we have a one type of category in which a woman or any man is working in a household for the full day, and they live in the same premises or other premises provided by the employer. So this is called that live-in workers, and here the working hour is not specified. It may be 9 to 10 hours, it may be 3 to 4 hours, or it may be 16 to 17 hours also. So these are the live-in workers. So we have such kind of the category, and all these categories are available in the country, and mostly this time of category is very much popular, and so much people wants to avail such kind of the category, which is part-time worker. Moving to the next slide. Next slide is about placement agencies and gig economy. So we already know that we don't have much formal thing about the placement and about the employment of such women or such men as a domestic workers, but right now we do have some formalities into this regard, and we do have intermediaries who are appointing workers to any household or who are supplying such kind of workers to any household, but that are not legal in nature and that are not recognized by the government of India or any state government. So these type of problems and these type of working models we have in case of the domestic work, and all these things what we have seen that there is a growth of gig economy into this. So they are very mobile in nature. We had discussed that part-time workers. So suppose that if any woman is washing utensils in a particular house, so she washes utensils in 10 houses. So in that way it can be the gig economy, and they have a flexible hours of work. Sometimes they can continue working in 6 homes, sometimes they can continue working in just 1 home, according to their need and according to the ability of the work. They do such kind of the job. So that all makes the gig economy. And but in the gig economy these kind of works are not included and their contribution are not recognized. And we have nowadays use of phone based application which are providing the workers, but they are not legal in nature and they don't provide any social security benefit to such kind of the workers, and they don't have maternity benefit. They are not covered under the Minimum Wages Act. So in that way these are very vulnerable situation for the domestic work, and because of that they are very economically suffering into this context. Moving to the next slide, which is about condition of domestic workers in India. So we already know that domestic work are not recognized as a productive work and their labor are very absent in the labor economy. So we have such kind of condition in context of India, but this case is not similar to the Western countries or many developed countries. They have a particular kind of recognized work and they get paid and they get recognition for such kind of the work, and they also skill their employees and skill their persons to work in a particular kind of direction. And here we don't want to have a skilled person, and here there is also mismatch between skilled and the market economy. So and whatever the skills they perceive, suppose that if any woman is making very good food and cooking good food to your household, that skill is not recognized. They don't have a particular kind of certificate, they don't have a particular kind of working experiences so that they can be get more remuneration for their further jobs, or they can get hike for their further jobs. Suppose that if any person is working in your household or washing utensils 2,000 per month, and if she or he has to switch to another house, so they don't have any kind of certificates such as the other employees get, the organized sector gets, that okay, this person has worked to this household for 2 years and he or she is skilled in washing utensils. So all these things are not recognized as skilled workers. Even if you are making good food, even if you are making arranging homes in a good manner, these all things are not called as a skill in our country. But there is a need enough, these things should be recognized as a skill in our country, and there should be separate particular codes to employ such kind of employment in our country. So according to the estimate, if we take that there is a study, and the name of the study is Informal Employment Globalizing and Organizing a Global Research Policy Network. And what that study claims, so it claims that the domestic work is the lowest paid work in all over the country. And we have studied the case of recently the Bengaluru, Tamil Nadu. So the average income vary from one state to another state, but we have seen that they are very low paid. And suppose that if any person is cooking for a person for whole month, he or she is getting just 2,000 or 3,000 for cooking for the whole month. It means they are very low paid. They don't have CL, EL kind of facility. They don't have menstrual leave. They don't have maternity benefit. They don't have sick leave. They don't have medical compensation. So these are the problems we have in front of the domestic workers. And according to official estimate, the number of domestic workers is around 4.75 million, and around 80% of this has been occupied by the women and minors. So most of these domestic work has been done by the women, and that's why women become more vulnerable into this kind of the economy. And we already had discussed that these fields are still informal in nature and there is no legal contract for them. And in terms of violence, discrimination, suppose that if any woman is facing sexual harassment, so we have Vishakha guidelines, we have various posh kind of things so that she could be prevented there. If any woman or man is injured during their work hours, so there is a compensation for the factory workers, there is a compensation for that employee. But in case of domestic worker, we have seen that many women have been burnt, many women have been abused, and they have been harmed because in their working hours, but they don't provided any kind of compensation and their employer is not punished. So these are the problems and these are the current condition of domestic workers in India. Moving to the next slide, which is what conclusion we have acquired from all these discussions. So the conclusion is that we still lack the concept of workman or working women, and as a like we still treat them as a servant, we don't treat them as a worker. Suppose that if any person is working in a factory, that person is called as a worker, but here they are not regarded as a worker, they are regarded as a maid, they are regarded as a servant. So this mentality and this notion should be changed, and in the law there should be the separate term and should be used for them, that they are the workers, they are not the maid, they are not the servant of any thing. And we have this problem that our household is a very private space and that is not regarded as any economic entity. Suppose that if any person is working in a company, that place is regarded as a working place or entity or economic entity, but in case of the homes, it is not regarded as a working place or economic entity. So this is also the problem in the economic definition, that we have not treated our household as economic entity. And in that sense, they are not getting any social security benefit because they are not registered employees, they are not registered workers, and they are still unorganized and they are not getting any kind of benefit which are provided by the central government of the country and the state government of the country. Nowadays, we have seen that various state government have come with the various solutions, and around 10 to 12 state government had identified domestic worker as a worker, and they had tried to cover up them among the informal groups, and they had also tried to register. And we had the domestic workers bills in 2016 also, but unfortunately that bill didn't pass. And what that bill says, that the bill says that there should be the registration of all the domestic workers so that they can be avail the social security benefits provided by the government of India. But we didn't pass that bill. We have the Minimum Wage Act, and in Minimum Wage Act we don't have particular kind of special provisions, and the word domestic work has been not used and domestic workers has been not used. So it's high time that we need to inculcate such kind of things. We have a labor code 2020, so they had tried to inculcate the informal groups, but in that informal workers the particular term has been not used. And if any person is hiring any person for their domestic help, there should be a legal procedure for that, and they are not legally protected, and because of that we are seeing that they are facing so much of the problems. And in India, the domestic workers condition are so much vulnerable because of the caste hierarchy, class hierarchy. And as you know that how casteism impacts our economy, because upper strata has more land, more wealth, so they have this capability that they can hire other employees, and usually the lower strata who lack the land and who has less social security benefit, who are very vulnerable economically, educationally and socially. So they work as a particular worker in a household. But what we have seen that most of them workers belong to the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes. And in the case of Bengaluru, recently we have a data that 86% of the workers belongs to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, and only 2% belongs to the upper caste. So here the caste hierarchy becomes so deep, and that provides another kind of economic and social inequality, and caste has a different role to play with the economic inequality, because since historical times we have seen that how caste and economy are interrelated, and because of that lower caste have less amount of opportunity, less awareness and less amount of education, because of that they become the domestic work. On the other hand, we have also seen that there is agricultural backwardness in the villages, and because of that agricultural backwardness, so many people are migrating to the city side and they are working as a domestic workers. So all these factors are making them as a domestic worker. Why any person is becoming a domestic worker? Because we don't provide any economic opportunity to their particular native place, and our villages still lacks the agricultural technologically equipped. We don't have much agricultural advancement, we don't have industries in our villages, we don't have much economic entity, and more economic opportunity are provided to all the women and men who are working in the villages. So these are the factors which force any person to become a domestic worker, and they had to face so many problems. So these are the data we have, and because of that they are not socially, economically and legally benefited in our country, and their contributions are not recognized in our GDP. So it's high time that Government of India should make a particular provision for them. We have this e-Shram portal, but e-Shram portal has registered the migrant workers, but they had hardly registered the domestic workers, especially the women. And if we will register the domestic workers, we'll have a particular idea. Right now, whatever the idea we have around the domestic worker, that data is very vague in nature, and Government of India should provide a special benefit for them, and they need to regulate that if any person is employing any particular men and women, then they should be provided sick leave, EL, CL. And Bengal has come with this kind of solution that if any person is working in your household, that person should get 15 days per year, such kind of the holidays. But this is also very less, but they have such kind of the provisions, and they are not covered under the trade unions. In Bengal, there is a Paschim Baga Domestic Worker Association which are registered as a trade unions, but all over the India, if you look, they are not registered as a trade union, and because of that there are no people to raise their voice, because trade unions, many times we have seen that they have raised the voice related to the workers, and their voices has been registered, and Government of India had looked to their economic and social prosperity. But in case of domestic workers, we lack such kind of the support by cooperative societies and trade unions. So we need to empower them by registering them as a regular worker, and we need to provide them economic security, and we need to spread the awareness regarding such acts. So these are the things we have, and Government of India is working towards this direction. In 2019, we have seen that Labour Ministry drafted a national domestic worker policy, but so many policies has been designed, but they are not coming into an effective way and in a practical way. So it's high time that their economic contribution should be calculated in the GDP, and there should be the monetization of all these workers, and there should be the informality of all the kind of workers. And Government of India need to define that if any worker is indulged in cleaning, then he or she must be paid minimum wage. So there should be the provision of minimum wage into their context. Moving to the next slide. Next slide is about the question, and here the question is related to e-Shram portal. And here they are asking that what is the primary purpose of e-Shram portal, and these are the options you have, and it is very easy. I think you are able to answer. So kindly look the options, and then we'll move towards the mains part. The mains question is, discuss the condition and challenges faced by the domestic workers in India. How can regulatory measures and social initiatives contribute to improving their welfare and working condition? So first, what you have to do, the highlight of the question is domestic workers. So you have to define that what is domestic workers, who are the domestic workers, and here you have to quote the ILO. because if you will quote ILO, your answer would have a strengthen, and that will authenticate that whatever the definition you are giving, it is authenticated by the ILO. So it's better that you can quote the ILO, and they have given a very simple definition that any person who are involved in a sweeping, cleaning, washing utensils, washing clothes, rearing children, taking care of elderly population, and in response and in return they are getting paid in a remuneration, so that is called as a domestic work, or that person is called as a domestic worker. So this is a simple definition of domestic worker. And then what are the challenges they have faced? So coming to the first part, which is the condition. So we already have said that in India we lack legal, economic and social benefit to domestic workers. So these are the conditions we have. And then coming to the challenges. So the challenges is that around million of the population are involved into such works, and it's very hard to register them under a single platform. So first challenge is that overpopulation, that so many workers are into this field. Third is lack of awareness among the domestic workers. So they don't know about their rights, that if they are getting abused, if they are getting not their wages, if they are not getting their salary, then they have right to complain in the police station, they have right to register their complaint, and they have right to that they can complain about their employer. But because of the economic inequality and because of the lack of awareness, they could not take such steps, and they face such kind of discrimination. So lack of awareness is another factor. Lack of union support or any association. So we already had discussed that they are not registered under any trade union or any association. So this is also one of the factor. And then coming to the lack of political will, because they are not recognized as a particular community or a particular class or particular organization. So there is a problem that they are not considered as a vote bank. Suppose that if any person is working to a particular household, so the person identity is related to that the person belongs to someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's daughter, but that person is not called as a domestic worker. So in that way, they are not regarded as a vote bank for the politicians, and that's why their importance are so much diminished. So they should be homogeneous identity for all the domestic workers. So suppose that if any person is working as a content writer, working as a news anchor, so they have a particular kind of the post. And if any person is working as a factory worker, they also have a post. But in case of domestic workers, we don't have such kind of a particular position. We don't have particular kind of any affiliations or any certificates, and that makes the political leaders that they are not the people who should be cared of. So these are the challenges we have. And then coming to the measures and social initiative. So first what you have to do, that you have to write that what is the Government of India initiative. So we have Minimum Wages Act, we have Labor Security Code, then we have e-Shram. So these are the initiative which has been taken by the Government of India. Then coming to that, what measures we can take. So first they need legalization. That they should be legally entitled or legally recognized, and there should be legal position to them. The second thing is that they should be provided social security benefit. There should be the provision for each community or each category, that if one person is a sweeper, one person is a cleaner, one person is a washerman, so they need to be paid accordingly, according to their experience, according to the services provided by them, and accordingly they should get the social benefit. And women are the mostly who are the contributor to the domestic work, so they should be covered under the Maternity Benefit Act, POSH, and all the benefits which any worker should be entitled to get. So social security is needed. Third, there should be the political will, and they should be categorized as a homogeneous identity, so that the political leaders should have also easy in contacting them and launching any particular schemes related to them. So these are the measures we can take for our domestic workers. And if we will legalize, and if we will, they are registered under a particular folder, and if they are registered under a particular scheme, so they can also have a social security benefit, economic benefit, and they could not face such kind of discrimination. So in the case of Noida, or in any case, many times we have seen that they are facing the wrath by their employer. And why they are facing the wrath by their employer? Because they are not economically independent and they are not socially aware about their rights. So in that way, these are the high times that we need to empower our domestic workers, and we need to protect their rights. So I hope you like this lecture. If you have any query to this lecture, kindly ask in the comment section. Thank you.